I've lived in the UK for almost 13 years now, and I'm officially British, and there are a lot of things that shocked me about the UK way when I first moved over here. So I'm gonna tell you about the certain cultural habits and norms that will be helpful for you to know on your London trip, from the more fun and light stuff all the way to the more serious stuff towards the end of the video. Two important points before we get into it. One is while I'm talking about British habits, I have always lived in the south of England, which is where London is. And much of England, never mind the rest of Great Britain, has lots of different cultural norms, but I'm sharing what my experience has been down in the south. And two is to remember that London is a city of foreigners like me, and some foreigners have taken on British aspects of life and some have not, and that's just how it is. Okay, let's start with language and communication. And this first one you will notice almost as soon as you get off the plane in London. Avoiding eye contact and not speaking on the tube. The London Underground is one of the busiest metro systems in the world, and we are often squished together like little sardines, and it is very important that we all never make eye contact or speak to each other and just pretend that this is not happening. It's just kind of the social contract of the tube. Even if it's not that busy, you will notice that people rarely talk to each other, and we definitely don't make eye contact. It's really this like funny joke that we have that's like, oh my God, I make eye contact with somebody on the tube. It was very awkward. Ugh. So if you hop onto the Central line and you try to strike up a friendly conversation with somebody, just know that they are probably not going to be very receptive. And speaking of unwritten social rules, this one might be the most British thing that I have on this list. Saying sorry for everything. British people apologize for absolutely everything, even if they don't think they did anything wrong. So you might notice if someone accidentally bumps into you, they say sorry, that makes sense. If you accidentally bump into somebody, they might say sorry, even though they didn't do anything wrong. You might even see someone bump into a lamppost and they'll apologize to that lamppost. It's just how it is here. So as a visitor, just so you know, if someone says sorry to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they did anything wrong. But if you say sorry back to them, then they'll kind of think you're local. And on the topic of things that English people say, but they don't necessarily mean, saying you're right. I remember when I first started dating my now English ex, and every time I would hop on a video call and his dad would come in, he'd always come on and be like, hey Jess, you all right? And finally I said to my ex, why does your dad always ask if I'm okay? Like, I am okay. And he was like, no, he's asking, you all right? As in like, how are you? That's how they say, how are you here? So if someone asks you, you all right? It's kind of like saying, how are you? However, you should know, the only correct answer to you all right is, yeah, good, you? Never be honest about how you are. That is not what that question is for. I feel like some British people will get mad in the comments that I'm saying British and English somewhat interchangeably, but I don't know what to do. Like, I gotta generalize a little bit in this video, okay? Thanks guys. Anyway, appreciate you watching. Okay, this last language one is something I truly did not understand until I moved here, and it still blows me away. Not understanding people from other parts of England. When I first moved here, I was absolutely floored at how many regional dialects that there are just in England, never mind the rest of the UK. Now, when you're in London, you might not encounter this that much because you'll meet lots of Londoners who have the kind of accent that you might have heard in films or on TV. But if you meet, let's say, someone who's from the north, or you travel up to cities like Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, the accent is completely different. In fact, if you've watched Peaky Blinders, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've lived here 13 years. I watched that show with subtitles on. But it's crazy to me that these cities that are less than 2 hours away by train have these really thick, in my opinion, regional accents that are different even though their cities are even quite close, and so different from what's called RP English, that is like the Queen's English or the BBC English. It's supposed to be non-regional dialect, but that's what you would find more down in the south, although that can vary as well. If you meet people who have these regional dialects and you can't understand them, just know that people from other parts of England also struggle with that, who have lived here all their lives. So totally fine, but you can just say, sorry, and just like be cute and confused. And they're usually these people with these really cool, interesting accents are used to people not being able to understand them. So they'll slow down and try to tone their accent down a little bit, which is very kind. I've met lots of Scottish and Northern Irish people who also do the same. Plus they all just tend to be quite friendly, especially those from Northern England. They're like super, super friendly. Oh, by the way, if it's your first time visiting London, I have a trip checklist for you that will tell you everything you need to do, book, and buy for your trip, and crucially, when you need to do it by. And it comes in a printable list plus a Notion template. And if you want to get that, just scan this QR code or click the link in the description box of the video and you can get it sent to your email for free. Okay, now on to the food and drink norms. And this one seems really small, but it could affect how you get served at a restaurant. Putting your fork and knife together when you're finished. It is customary in the UK that when you are done eating, you put your fork and your knife in the middle of the plate, and that signifies to the server that you are done eating and ready for your plate to be collected. If you don't do that, it's quite unlikely they're gonna come clear your plates at all. And I feel like this is one of the ways that people from the US get mad about service here in the UK because they don't know that. And then they're like,
why are they just leaving all these dirty plates on the table?
That's because you haven't done the right thing, that's why. It's basically considered rude to try to collect the plate if you haven't done that. And if there's one institution you need to understand before you visit the UK, it's this one. The pub is a social gathering place. It's kind of the living room of British social life, even here in London. It's often where you choose to go for a casual friend meetup, for a birthday celebration, for leaving drinks, for somebody who's leaving a job, to watch the sport. A lot of stuff happens at the pub. It's one of the most democratic social spaces in the country, and as someone who grew up in North America, I still think it's pretty cool. So when you're in London, don't just stop at a pub for like 15 minutes, have a drink, and then move on to the next thing. Definitely give yourself time to sit, relax, soak up the atmosphere, and ideally, get yourself a Sunday roast if it's a Sunday, which I will talk about that a bit later. The pub is supposed to be a place that you linger and relax, and there's no pressure to move, so enjoy that. And if you're moving from a pub to a sit-down restaurant, here's something that a lot of tourists get caught off guard about. You have to ask for the bill. I feel like in the US, most of the time, your server, as soon as they see that you have done and you've said you don't want anything else, they will automatically just drop the bill on your table. But that is not the case here in the UK. Servers, for the most part, are trained not to rush you if they don't have to, so they're waiting for you to say, "Can I have the bill, please?" and then they will bring it over for you. So don't just sit there waiting for it to come, because they won't. It will not come. And while we're on restaurants, this one is really important to know before you book anywhere. There are set timings for your reservations. In the UK, and especially in London, if you book a time at a restaurant, it's a reservation, but it usually has a limited time to it. And that's because a lot of these restaurants, especially in London, and especially right now, really rely on a certain amount of turnover to be able to actually make it profitable in an evening. So if you book your table for 7 o'clock, there's a good chance you'll have a 90-minute limit and you won't be able to stay longer than that. This can vary sometimes. If it's not busy, they'll let you stay longer. If you have a bigger group, you get a longer time period. Or if it's a nicer restaurant, they might not rush you as well. But you also might see that when you get seated for your reservation, that they say politely, "Just so you know, you have the table for the next 2 hours until 9 o'clock. And that's basically them saying, "Please don't take too long to decide and order because we will have to kick you out." Also, lots of restaurants, if you do want to stay for more drinks or you're just finishing up desserts, will have a bar that you can sit at and they'll move you to that. And this one is a small adjustment to your expectations, but it's a good one to know before you order your first drink. There's no or less ice in drinks. This is one that I've had a lot of followers complain about, and it's usually the ones who have never been to Europe before, because this is kind of the case in other countries around this continent. I know back in North America, you're used to ordering a Diet Coke and having basically that entire cup filled with ice with just a few splashes of Diet Coke, and it is absolutely frigid, but ice is used a lot more sparingly here, and sometimes it's not used at all. Don't look at it as something that's annoying. It's just the way it is. You can always ask for more ice if you want it. That's completely fine. And also, I mean, I've grown to like it because when I go to the US and I order even just some water and it comes out with a ton of ice, it turns my entire body so cold within like an instant. It's also not really that good to be drinking very cold drinks. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's true. And on the subject of temperature expectations, this one's really important if you're a beer drinker. Beer is not served icy cold. In the UK, especially with traditional ales and bitters, beer is served at cellar temperature, which is cool, but nowhere near the very cold that a lot of beers are served in North America. This is intentional, and the idea is that if it's really cold, it dulls the flavor of the beer. There are exceptions to this. You can get bottled beer from the fridge. Sometimes lagers are served colder. But if you're thinking it's gonna be gross, just give it a chance. You'd be surprised how quickly it grows on you and you just don't even notice it. This one is less of a shock and more of something you definitely need to plan into your trip if you're here on a weekend. Having Sunday roasts on Sundays. The Sunday roast is a British institution. If you're British and you grew up here, it's common to have a Sunday roast on a Sunday. Sometimes it's made at home and you just have it with the family around the table, but especially here in London, people love to go out to the pub to have a Sunday roast. And what is Sunday roast? I kind of equate it to a Thanksgiving meal or even kind of like a Christmas meal where you get a roast meat. It's usually beef, lamb, chicken, a couple of different options, or you can get a veggie version. And it comes with roast vegetables, roast potato, gravy, and something called a Yorkshire pudding. It is one of these very specific UK experiences that if you are in London on a Sunday, you have to make sure that you book in for one. But you need to be aware that the most popular Sunday roasts get booked up pretty far in advance, so don't leave it too long to book. I actually have an entire video guide on how you can do Sunday roasts, from all the cultural stuff you need to know to how to make sure you go to a place that does a really, really good one. You can watch that video after this one. I'll have a link to it at the end. And speaking of quintessentially British food experiences, this is one you have probably heard of, but there is something you need to know about it. Having afternoon tea. Okay, having afternoon tea is definitely a thing here in the UK, but you should not come over to London and expect it to be something that happens multiple times a week for the English or for Londoners here. It's just not the case. It's more of a special occasion thing, something that you do if it's your friend's birthday or when your parents are in town. It's actually the thing that I always take my parents to when they come to London. They love it, I love it, and it's nice to get dressed up. So don't expect this to be woven into normal life here in London, but you should definitely book in for the experience. And of course, I have a whole video guide that tells you how to do afternoon tea with lots of recommendations of places to go. So that's another video that you can watch next. They're racking up at this point. I mean, I have like 500 videos at this point. There's a lot, so just keep watching through them. Please, it's good for me and it's good for you. And this next one is something that might surprise you if you're used to the more stricter rules back in the US. Drinking in public is a favorite pastime. In most places in the US, drinking in public is either frowned upon or absolutely illegal. I know my British friends, when they go over to the US, they're like, I can't, what? It's so annoying. But here in the UK, drinking in public is, for the most part, okay. In fact, if you come to London on a sunny day, even if it's not that warm, and you go past one of our many, many parks, you will absolutely see tons of people with picnics set up in the parks, drinking rosé, drinking beers, drinking ciders, and just having a merry old time, and some of them having a really merry old time, in the sunshine without having to worry about hiding their alcohol in a brown paper bag, because it's completely legal to have drinks in the park. And actually, it's completely legal to even walk around the streets with drinks, with the exception of a few spaces. You should also know you are not allowed to drink on any of the public transport in London, so no tube and no bus drinking, it's not allowed. But besides that, it's pretty freeing. I love that you can sit outside of a pub and not have to worry that cops are gonna come and arrest you. And I love that I can go to the park and I can, just have this freedom. It's fantastic. And now we're on to cultural norms. And if there's one thing you do not mess with in this country, it is this. Orderly queuing has to be respected. English people love an orderly queue. A queue is a line. And I don't know what it is about this culture, but they just love to stick to it. So as soon as there's a couple people that need something, they form an orderly queue. And crucially,
Do not ever cut the queue.
if you do, there will be hell to pay. You will get looks, you will get snickers, you will get tut-tuts. And likely you will have someone that will say, excuse me, there is a queue. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little embarrassing when it happens. I have learned my lesson. I always make sure I figure out where I'm going and I do not cut anyone and I respect the queue. I will not be that North American that is like, I'm just gonna cut the queue. Nope, not doing it. Next up is one that after 13 years here, I still find so fascinating. And that is the North England and South England divide, as well as the London and not London divide. There is this long-standing cultural divide between people who live in the north of England and people who live in the south of England. People from the north of England have this perception of people from the south, including people from London, that they are posh, they're snobby, unfriendly, and out of touch. And people from the south generally perceive people from the north as being the opposite: broke, rowdy, loud, unclassy. The main sticking point is usually money. The south of England and London is more expensive, the wages are higher, and there's a perception that resources are disproportionately focused on this area, which is true if I'm honest. And for a similar reason, there's a London and not London divide. London is its own world, it's its own culture, it operates at a really fast pace, and sometimes it feels like a separate country from the rest of England. And a lot of people from outside of London don't like this. And we do get a lot of comments from non-Londoners on our videos saying London isn't England. And while I would agree with that, if you want the very quintessential English experience, you can find that in London, but London's way more than that. But unfortunately, the people who leave those comments often have a more racial undertone, where what they mean is that London is not predominantly white. Not everyone who says that, but it's a lot of them. And to be clear, one of the best parts about London is how diverse this city is. Okay, as a visitor, how will this all affect you? So probably not super directly, but if you mention to somebody who is from Manchester or Leeds or up north in England that you're going to London, they might be like,
Oh, why don't you come to other parts of England?
which you can if you want to. And they might even just straight up tell you that London sucks and that it's a violent place that is dirty and disgusting and maybe some other things that are extremely rude and racist. Hopefully not. But I live here. 8 million people choose to live here for a reason, so. And those people are so funny because they'll comment on one of our Love and London videos saying,
You know, there's so much more to England than London. Like, make other videos about other places in London.
I'm like, well, it is called Love in London, sir. I mean, it's not called Love in Blackpool. What do you want me to do? Moving on to having a stiff upper lip. This is classic British, and it's the idea that you don't show your emotions very much and you kind of just get on with things and you don't make a fuss about anything and don't burden anybody with your feelings and your problems and your emotions. It's very like royal family kind of vibes, if you know what I mean. This is why if their food is served cold at a restaurant, they will not say anything. This is why they'll sit in an uncomfortable situation for an hour because they don't want to kick up a scene or cause a ruckus. Keep calm and carry on is a saying you've probably seen, and that's what it describes this phenomenon. And I'll be honest, I don't love this aspect of British culture, especially as someone coming from North America. It's made me appreciate how vivacious and how direct and emotional that Americans can be. And importantly, how we stand up for ourselves and we stand up for others. I do think that this is changing here in the UK because there's a lot more talk around mental health and not keeping things inside, but it's definitely nowhere near what we have in the United States of America. Okay, this is one I've experienced as someone who is a public person growing a business here in the UK. Being negative and not encouraging progress or growth. There is a cultural tendency in the UK, and I say this with love. I say this as somebody who chooses to live here and chooses to grow a business here, but there is a suspicion to be suspicious of ambition. If somebody's doing well, if someone's trying something new, they're trying to grow something, their response is usually skepticism rather than encouragement. There is a saying for this here, it's called the tall poppy syndrome, and it's the idea that if somebody starts growing taller and doing better than other people, that instead of letting them continue to grow, we need to chop them off so they're back to the level of everybody else. It shows up in small ways. It's in like self-deprecating humor. It's in jokes that people will make about you trying to make a YouTube channel or trying to start your own business. And instead of being like, that's such a great idea, or here's how I can help, they'll say, how is that gonna work? Instead of the encouragement. The general cultural preference is modesty over confidence, that is for sure. And coming from North America, where everything is like, yes, you do it, go for your dreams, go for it. It's still something I can't wrap my head around. So if you're visiting London and you're really excited about something and you share that with somebody who is from the UK and you don't get like as big of a response as you were hoping for, just know that that could be why. It's more of a cultural thing and it is quite different here versus in the US. It's actually so funny. I gave a keynote talk at a conference last week to 300 US real estate agents, and they were so enthusiastic. Like, every time one of the speakers got up on stage, there was a standing ovation. They cheered all the time. I loved it. I was like, God, I miss this energy so much. And all the British speakers were like, wow, they have a lot of energy. And I was like, I'm soaking it up while I can. It's so great. So please, if you are from North America, I know we talk a lot about how we're loud and we're a bit much sometimes, but in my opinion, it is actually overall a really beautiful trait. Okay, you're ready for your trip now, but before you fly, make sure you watch my Sunday roast guide, which is right here. Just click that box there and scan this QR code if you want to get my free London trip checklist. It has everything you need to do, but you get the idea. See you in the next video.